Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Now, a quick apology to my subscribers. This episode has taken a lot longer to get out than I would normally like, but I just wanted to make sure the quality and content was there, worth your time to watch. So getting on, I'll be back onto the exhaust, translating the prototype version into actual real steel for the dump pipe. Then I'll be onto the front end, test fitting the front axles, and also trying to get those big wheels under the arches, also exploring narrowing the front end and installing an adjustable camber top. Finally, I'll be onto the radiator, installing a new fan bracket for the primary fan, that way to make sure that it will fit inside the engine bay. All right, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. All right, let's go already. Back on the exhaust again. So all the parts have come in. Bends, I ordered 3, 2 2¼ inch pipe collector into 1 3-inch. Short length of 3-inch pipe with a 10-degree bend, and 2 flexible couplings which are ultra heavy duty, so they've got the liner inside. Also, the 2 flanges that I sent to the CNC metal cutting company have come in as well, so I'm ready to go. So I've never used this prototyping method before, and that's why I was so happy that it worked out quite well. So I'm now going to try and transfer what I've built here into the metal pieces. So one other thing I didn't realize, because I'm not an exhaust builder, these pipes need to enter the collector on a bit of a V rather than straight up like I had, because you need to be able to weld in between the V there. So I'm just going to have to slightly divert from my prototype just to get this to work. Now I'm going to cut. Okay, underneath the car, I've got one of the new flanges bolted up, just temporary. There's a lining up point. Okay, so the first dump pipe, the shape is all tacked up in place. Tacks are a bit rough. Welding upside down is not my favourite thing. I have done a lot of it on my last project, so yeah, the aim is not to be Kentucky Fried. So I'm not going to fully weld this one just yet because I'm running out of gas and I want to get started on the other one. But this will also require a bung that I'm going to weld somewhere around here for the lambda sensor, and then another one here because the R32 actually has 4 lambda sensors. So this is the last bit of the custom-made exhaust. So I'm going from the 2-into-1 collector into a piece of 3-inch pipe that has a shallow bend, and then this will then go into the catalytic converter I'm just using this spare piece of stainless steel, which actually came with the AliExpress kit. So that was handy. This was actually one of the tailpipes. So it was really good to help line up the exhaust. So here's the custom dump pipe setup out of the car now. Everything's tacked together as it should be. I'm not going to fully weld it now. I'll probably just do it off camera before the next episode. This is the catalytic converter. So the catalytic converter, right now I've just got it as a slip fit. So that'll go right there with a clamp. And then hopefully everything works as it should. I'm going to start the process of narrowing the front end. I'm starting on the front end because it's the most complicated, and I figure I better get the most complicated part out first, and then it's a breeze from that point on. There are three main items I need to consider. So first is the drive shafts. So they may need to be shortened. I haven't sorted that out or looked at that just yet. There's the tie rods, so the steering tie rods. They'll most likely need to be shortened, and also the bottom control arm. So as you can see here, there's the edge of the front guard and there's the edge of the tyre. Now, I'm not wanting to have the rims protrude past the edge of the guards. So with a straight edge to the rim and a ruler to the face of the guard, I'm looking at 30 mils. This is the old bottom control arm. I'm going to work on this one to start with because I've never done this process before. So I'd rather hack up an old one, get it right or wrong, and then try it again on the new ones. This is a plate, none related to this, but it had my lunch on. It was very delicious. So the plan is to do my modifications within this area. I'm stopping here because this is the point where the link goes to the sway bar. So I'd rather keep that geometry as it is and not have to get a custom sway bar made. This point is these three holes here is where the ball joint assembly fits in. The good thing about the Beetle bottom control arms is they're actually both left and right. The part numbers are the same. So once I get this thing where I want it to be, I'll actually create a jig which will have a couple of key points, and then when I do one side, I'll flip the jig over and then repeat the other side to be exactly the same. So before I start on the suspension, I'm just setting up this bar with an inclinometer slope gauge. I've checked it with a known bubble level just to make sure it's all good. And then I'm going to set up the car to be basically level. So I've added a plastic packer to the jack stand. It's 0.05 degrees difference between the two bolt heads. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so I've got the car sitting level now. So front, left to right is just plus minus 1 or 0.1 degree, and then front to back is 0.05. So the car is basically sitting level at the front, left to right, and then forward and back level. Okay, so what I've done here is I've installed the cut bottom right control arm to the front, and I've also installed the little bit that goes on the other side onto the steering knuckle with the shock. The shock isn't installed. I've just got a beer cooler just to protect it. So what I'm going to do is I've actually made this piece here. I've just cut it so that it can fit in here and also in here. So what will allow me to do is just have a sort of connection between these two parts, but be able to move them in and out as I need to, just so I can figure out how much I can actually modify this, because I have to take into account that the top, I don't want to modify the body, so I'm limited to the amount of camber I can achieve from the top. All right, so I've got the wheels set up in position with the joiner plate now on the bottom control arm. So everything's good again. It's roughly in line with the wheels being straight, and the camber is 88.3, which is fine. The strut is just effectively sitting there, but I have got this ratchet strap pulling it, so it's actually going to naturally pull to the bottom of the circle there, which is essentially where the center line of the circle is, which is perfect. So here's the bottom control arm. As you can see here, it's got a temporary piece of metal here and it's been cut. So as it turned out, that when I put it in position to where I wanted it to be, this was actually 10 millimeters further out than the stock bottom control arm. I'm going to put this one in the lessons learned bucket. So the expression measure twice, cut once kind of applies here. So what I've done here is I've put the original bottom control arm back in place, but I've left the top of the strut loose. I've pulled the strut completely to the left, simulating maximum camber. So as it turns out, with the stock control arm, I not only get the wheel almost in line with the edge, actually is close enough, and the angle is 89 degrees, so which means 1 degree camber, which was exactly what I was aiming for. So yeah, silly me, I've done all that work modifying, measuring the bottom control arm for no work at all. But on the plus side, I don't have to do any further work on the control arms. Plus, I've made all these mistakes so that you guys don't have to. So I thought about making my own top mount for the shock, but I saw this on the internet and I figured I'll just give it a punt because this is adjustable. From the folks at Silver Project, I don't know them, but having a look at this product, it looks really good. My expectation was that this is cast, but this is actually all steel that's been machined and then powder coated. So the top plate and the bottom plate are actually solid steel. So this thing's actually quite heavy. It's got a heam joint here. So it makes a nice solid connection to the top shock mount. So I'll be fitting these. Here's the adjustable coilover suspension that I bought to replace the original suspension in the Beetle. It's Max Speed brand, but it's often referred to as the eBay suspension. So here's all the bits for this exercise. I'm going to be fitting the drive shaft that comes from a Scirocco R, about 2017 model. I'll leave all the part numbers for both axles in the description. Here is the eBay shock, adjustable shock. These are the original mounts, which I'll no longer be using. And again, this is the Silver Project top mount and some of the tools that I'll be using. So full disclosure, I have fitted these parts before, so I know everything works. So I'll just give you guys a view through. So as I've mounted these previously, I know that you need to remove this top progressive spring, which is a softer spring, to leave this main coil to get me to the height I actually want the car to be at. Unfortunately, I have had commentary to say that this particular setup is quite a harsh ride, but we'll see how we go. So I'll be using the main larger spring, keeping the bottom adjusters, keeping the top cap plate, and then the Silver Project, this will install at the top with the nut that it comes with, and then this portion mounts under the guard and this portion mounts on top. So that is actually squeezing between the original metal, and this sits where the original rubber would have sat. So this is the original rubber. This sits in the same place that that part does. So this rubber doesn't get used. So I'm going to start with installing the drive shaft, as it's quite a tight fit and you can't do it once the suspension is in place. wheel's back on and all the rest of the suspension's now correctly in place. I've set the height to where I think it would be for my normal driving height, but unfortunately the edge of the wheel isn't flush with the edge of the guard, and also there is a lot of camber on this wheel. 3.9 degrees of camber, which is more than what I would like. I'd probably like 1 degree at most, but I'm going to leave it here. So back on the primary radiator fan bracket, hopefully for the last time. So this is the original bracket, plastic. I've already mocked up the fan with some distance away from the radiator itself. And this is the one I designed and had cut out of steel by the laser cutting company. I basically designed it to be exactly the same as the original. I just made these legs a bit longer to allow for adjustment when I actually fit this. So got a fair bit done. I'm really pleased with the result with the exhaust. All I have to do now is just give it a little bit of tickle and final weld everything, and then I can fit it in place properly. Now, as far as the front suspension goes, yeah, it didn't quite get the result I was hoping for, unfortunately, but my goal is to not touch the body of the car at all. So I'm just going to have to live with a bit of poke on the front, and I'll use that as my guide for when I do the rear. Finally, the fan, yeah, it worked out really nice as expected, but in terms of cost, it probably would be better for me to just make it myself like I did with the secondary fan. But anyway, hope you enjoyed today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.